welcome back to the channel. It is Sarah, or Frilled Criminal, whichever you prefer. And today I wanted to go over a topic that has been bothering me for a while. We're talking about the hellhole app, once again, TikTok. So, quick disclaimer, if you see me looking down like this, it's because I'm reading my script. I don't have the best memory, so I apologize, but I wrote everything out and I want to just talk to you guys about it. So yeah, let's get into it. TikTok is a relatively popular app for alternative fashion enjoyers to share their outfits, parts of their days where they may be traveling or going to cafes or doing something cute, and the things that they've bought, which brings its own issues, but we are not talking about that in today's video, possibly in the future, but we're not talking about that. If you're alternative and you have ever posted to TikTok, you may have noticed that there is a certain repetition to the comments that you receive. Where do I buy that dress? What is this called? How do you buy this from this website? How do I look like you? And let me be clear before the video even begins, it is fine to ask questions about things you don't understand. That is human nature. That is understandable. However, you should be asking these things to Google, as these questions have likely been asked and answered before. Every post I've ever seen over the past few years from an alt person, myself included, has these comments over and over, and man, I'm so sick of tired. I'm like so sick of answering. I'm so sick of answering. For some reason, short form content platforms have nurtured an audience that expects to be spoon-fed subcultures and information about them. It is tiring for those who post content to repeatedly answer the same question over and over, and it's also detrimental to the health of the subculture as a whole. Let's talk about it. So, first of all, what even is spoon feeding? On Urban Dictionary, spoon feeding is described as the following: when someone gets everything they want without putting in his own effort. Often people ask other people to do/explain stuff because they are too lazy to do the work by themselves. So they want other people to do the work for them. If a stranger is too lazy to Google something and another person helps him with more information or other stuff, that is spoon feeding. This is the definition we will be using throughout this video. Basically, when person A asks a question expecting person B to personally explain the topic to them, even though they can get that same information from a Google search. This happens very frequently on TikToks and sometimes Instagram. You might have seen this meme floating around. I've actually reposted it a couple times. This is exactly what I'm talking about. Often on my TikTok, I'm asked where I got my dress or how to shop on sites like Taobao when there are hundreds, no joke, hundreds of tutorials by other alternative folks on the same app. I'm usually fine answering questions on a more like intricate things that are hard to find online, but for the "oh my god, where's your dress from?" comments, I honestly don't even respond anymore, because no matter what tutorials I post and how many times I link others to these tutorials, they don't actually watch or care. I'll get into this later in the video in full, but what I mean by that is that these questions aren't asked in earnest. And on the off chance it's someone genuinely interested in Lolita fashion or Gyaru or whatever it may be, they aren't willing to put in the effort to find the answers themselves because they expect us older, more experienced folks to explain it to them one-on-one, as if we're there purely to help them in their own journey with fashion, which is not the case. As a Lolita with a lot of experience, I gained that experience by immersing myself into online resources like tutorials, magazine archives, and reading online forums, both for advice and also for fun. You know, one of my favorite things to do is just scroll down r/Lolita and look at old live journal like entries and stuff. I really like that, and it helps me build chords, and it gives me ideas for chords, and it teaches me like what I should do to like make my chords look better and stuff. It's all around really good to look into these resources on your own. Also, Google Lens is literally built into TikTok. To sum this up, these aren't questions to start or foster a conversation. They're purely to do the heavy lifting for those who are, generally speaking, unwilling to do the research on their own. What made people online begin to behave like this? This is a relatively new phenomenon. I'll tell you straight up, it's TikTok and Instagram's fault. Just like everything else at this point. People using these apps have been taught to ask in a comment rather than seek out the information themselves. And to be honest, a lot of people nowadays don't know how to do the research themselves. Not because the information doesn't exist or it is hard to find, but because they don't need to look for it. Why even leave the app if everything gets answered in a comment section? You see what I'm saying here? These apps also reward speed. The faster you get through 10 reels, the faster you get dopamine. There's this push to consume as much as you can, sometimes too much, as fast as possible without pausing and looking into the topics at hand. It's very much turned into a comment and forget about it type of thing. And I'll be honest, I've done this too, going into comments to see if someone has already asked and explained it. But to be clear, this is not a healthy way to learn anything, especially when you default to doing this. To give it a name, this seems a lot like learned helplessness. People become accustomed to only learning things when it explained directly to them. When this carries over to fashion subcultures, or basically any collecting hobby like figurines, posters, stuff like that, people don't come naturally curious and eager to learn anymore. They come codependent on others to spoon feed them the information they don't feel like or know how to Google. The community has had to carry the burden of their lack of genuine interest and want to learn new things, and man, it gets so tiring. I'm honestly so sick of answering these comments with the same answer I gave not even 5 TikToks ago. Honestly, the worst thing these apps have taught is that if it can't be learned instantaneous, right now, and it immediately clicks with you, it's confusing and or not worth the effort learning about. I'm sorry, but I literally cannot break down Lolita as a subculture in a TikTok comment. It is physically impossible. It's too complicated. Please just do your own research like I did when I first began learning about EGL. This isn't an exaggeration, but before TikTok and similar platforms, Lolitas had to research everything themselves. They didn't expect to be handed every answer on a silver platter. There used to be so little resources back in the day of the sweet boom. All of these tutorials in J-Fashion TikTok accounts, in reels and content, it's very, very new. There used to just be blogs on Tumblr or Blogger, EGL Live Journal, and that was it. That was all the social media we had. Well, but we as Lolitas, not we as in I was a part of the sweet boom. Sorry. Just to clarify, I personally don't think that it's possible to teach someone about the history of Lolita fashion or where to buy clothes through a TikTok comment. It's very nuanced and there's a lot to say about both topics. I really do think this type of question and answer is incompatible with the short form style of TikTok and Instagram. I said we'd get to this part, and honestly, I'm excited to finally talk about this in the video. It is something that I've been very passionate about for a while. Lolita fashion is very frequently treated like an exhibit, if not all the time. We aren't treated like we're just wearing the fashion we like. We're treated like some sort of spectacle, some sort of unicorn, mystical being. I understand to some degree because it's such a unique fashion style. However, this is when you should be doing your own research. When most people see a goth person online, they may ask where something is from, like a belt or a bag, but they don't ask what the fashion itself is. With Lolita, the first response is almost always confusion. What is this? Why are you dressed like that? Is this cosplay? These questions don't just mean nothing. Lolita is treated more like some confusing, never before seen fashion, and those who wear EGL are expected to write a full, well thought out response about what the fashion is, where it originated from, how to buy the pieces, etc. This almost never occurs outside of Japanese fashion circles, and to be honest, I'd say it mainly happens to Lolita. I could be wrong, but this is just based on my own experience. People don't ask goth people to explain the philosophy behind their fishnets. Nobody is asking a guy in streetwear to explain the entire history of his clothes brands, like Gucci. We're not asking someone who's wearing Gucci, hey, what's the history behind Gucci? As Lolitas, we are always expected to explain this to every person who asks and to interpret it for them. We aren't treated like fashion enjoyers. We're treated as if we're a costume exhibit. Once we're established in their mind as some sort of novelty, They feel entitled to ask these questions under every post because at that point, we are no longer a person sharing outfits online, we become content. When we mix this together with that learned helplessness I talked about earlier, you can now see why we are all so exhausted with answering these questions time and time again. After becoming a Lolita nearly 6 years ago and a public content creator for about 5 years, but really getting my start like 2 years ago, I am personally very tired of being asked the same questions over and over again. You have to think about it this way. It's not just you asking me one thing, it's a lot of people asking the same things over and over again, because it's not just you. Because if you had that question, that means that other people have had that question. Does that make sense? Asking me where I bought my wig when it's literally tagged in the caption is so crazy to me. I don't even really do product tagging on Instagram or TikTok anymore because no one reads it anyways at this point, unless it's like a seasoned Lolita who's like looking into where I got my wig or something. A lot, if not most, of the questions that I get asked lead literally nowhere. The user asking rarely ever joins the community after getting told in a random creator's comment section what the history of Lolita fashion is. Then there's the issue of not coming off as nice enough or not being approachable when you kindly ask them to do the research themselves. I keep saying this and I'm so sorry that I do, but I'm so sick and tired of being tone policed when I ask someone to maybe use Google instead of asking some random stranger on the internet to break down everything into bite-sized pieces just for you. No matter what, you will never be nice enough to people who ask these questions and you very gently say, hey, please do your own research into this topic. That isn't a mean thing to say, by the way. It is very normal to do your own research into the topics you are interested in so that you, as a person, are more educated in the things that you care about. And I'm sorry, but at some point you have to. You can't gain all of the knowledge of a very intricate and nuanced Japanese fashion subculture from an Instagram Reels comment section or a caption. It's definitely a start, but it's not the end-all be-all. It's low-key beginning to feel like I'm working at a customer service counter and I'm not just some random person posting my coordinates online. And, you know, I am a Lolita fashion content creator. I put out tutorials and stuff and I'm always happy to help people, but it gets tiring sometimes. And also, this type of learning does not foster a community. In fact, I would argue that it harms the community. So where does this leave us? Well, we have two big consequences of this. First, experienced Lolitas will just stop posting. If every person who shares Lolita fashion gets the exact same questions every time they post, do you think people would begin to build resentment towards sharing content online? At least publicly. Not even necessarily towards the people asking the questions, just at the questions themselves. Speaking from experience here, I would say that it is very common for Lolitas to vent about this kind of behavior in spaces away from the public eye. I've been mutuals with people who ended up going private or stopped posting altogether because of the constant questioning and, oh my god, I wish I had your confidence, I want to dress like you comments. It seems silly. It really does, and I understand that, especially with today's climate of everything. It seems silly, but it really does get tiring after a while. I've seen veteran Lolitas go private for this reason, and for history and media preservation, this sucks big time. The second consequence is that there is so much misinformation about Lolitas on these apps. There are so many reasons as to why more research should be done before commenting on people's posts and before joining the community. So to start, this contributes to the fast fashionification of Lolita as a whole because Lolita is becoming nothing more than a TikTok aesthetic. It's no longer a fashion with many decades of history behind it that has real cultural importance in Japan. It's now been thinned out and streamlined into nothing more than some pretty collages with info about the substyles under Lolita. I'm using that term very lightly because most of these slides are just straight up incorrect 9 times out of 10, if I'm being completely honest. I've seen TikTok shop Lolita dresses that are drop shipped from AliExpress people recommending the Amazon dress because it's cheap and good quality, and a lot of people not even in the community giving others cord advice. It's the Wild West on these apps, dude. Like, you'll see a god tier coordinate, an infographic about Lolita that's mostly incorrect, and then a video of someone trying to sell you that one teddy bear like Taobao dress in the span of like 90 seconds. Like, Jesus Christ, holy whiplash, dude. Another direct result of learned helplessness in regards to research leads to people making questionable purchases on even more questionable sites, or promoting sites that are not safe to buy from. I've seen this so many times at this point, I'm kind of just expecting it every time I log on to either of these apps. Again, it is literally impossible to learn everything about a community only through TikTok comments. Honestly, I'd say even just through TikTok videos as a whole. Like, it is so nuanced. You have to do a lot of research into it. So what questions are good to ask people online via comments? A good comment to leave on someone's post might be asking about a topic you've tried looking into but had issues with or were unsuccessful. Not stuff like asking where to buy dresses or how to take your measurements, but maybe asking a creator, hey, I see a lot of guides online for newer Lolitas or older. Do you have any that you personally trust or would recommend? You should be the one doing the heavy lifting here, not the content creator. And I want to make it very, very clear once again, we do not hate people for being curious. Not at all. It's what you end up doing with that curiosity you have. Genuine questions and interest in Lolita are awesome, and I'm so happy that people want to learn more. But there is that somewhat blurred line between asking a valid question because you're curious and asking because you feel entitled to an explanation. Specific, respectful, and not super time-intensive questions are always welcome, you know? When it comes to explain Taobao to me or what is this dress style called questions, it's different. A lot of the time, the answers to these questions can be found by simply looking at that person's caption or page for more than a couple seconds. And anyways, like I said, you should be doing the heavy lifting when it comes to the research, not the creator, because the creator has already done so. You are just getting into the fashion, and you should be learning about it. Lastly, I wanted to say this. The resources that people ask for are out there. e.g. a live journal and archives of it, Wikipedia, Law Library, scans of fashion magazines, YouTube tutorials and guides, community written guides on people's blogs. The information is by no means hidden. It's not even that hard to find, if I'm honest. It's just that people don't want to look for it in current day 2026 and possibly the future 2027 and beyond. It's very different from when I first joined, and I imagine it will only keep going this way for the foreseeable future, unfortunately. Closing thoughts. Lolitas on TikTok, Instagram, Tumblr, whatever site it may be, are not obligated to be your personal teacher. We are not required to be super over the top sugary sweet when telling you to do your own research. Most of the time, we are nice. It's just that hearing that you yourself should be putting in the research is unpleasant. And I understand that, but it's true, you should be putting in the research. And most important of all, someone posting a coordinate to their own feed is not a pass to ask them a million questions that can, again, be answered with Google. I want to say this. If you really, really, really love a subculture and want to participate, the very least you can do is meet it halfway. So yeah, that was my think piece that I've been working on for a couple days. Also, hey, I'm in Hot with Doll. But yeah, that was the think piece that I've been working on for a couple days. I saw some crazy, honestly, that screenshot that I showed at the beginning of this meme, I wanted to make this video because of that. So yeah, anyways, I decorated my wall and I should be doing a room tour soon. No promises, but I'm very happy with how my room looked. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. I appreciate your guys' time and your continued support as I take breaks, very like short ones, and then like post a lot, and I appreciate it. You guys are awesome. And yeah, anyways, this has been Sarah or Filth Criminal, and have a good day. Yay!
Kukui.